We're going to conclude our discussion with John Bartholomew with a question that I want to pose to him, and it starts with us knowing that he had his roots in Pennsylvania, where his mother and his father, and especially his mother, driving him to think of how to make a difference. How do you stand up for what you believe in and then make a difference? And that triggered an entire lifetime, a career of making a difference. But John, you moved to Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
Something drew you here, and what are your ideas about Portland as a place to either stop and move somewhere else? So what drew you to Portland?
Well, over the years of being married to my wife, we had a lot of conversations about how do we want to live our lives? Where do we want to live it? What kind of amenities do we want? What kind of culture do we want? And we did a lot of analysis of that. We wanted to live in a walkable community. We wanted to have a lively culture, a progressive political scene, a nice climate, good food, a place that was a place, so that not just any other place could look like it, but something that had a personality of its own.
So you intentionally chose to search.
We state by state analysis, and we landed here.
And I'm not going to ask you to reveal the second, third, and fourth choices, but you really did your homework about where you wanted to live temporarily or for a longer haul.
This was our permanent move because we had done. We had moved to several different cities in different states over the years.
For jobs.
For jobs, but also at one point it was, where in the Northeast do we want to live? And we moved to Portland, Maine.
Okay.
And Portland.
So an intentional move to a location rather than a career move.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then from there, it was another one of those, this is all right, but it's not perfect for us.
Okay.
Let's try to figure that out. What's our final stop? And so we took a lot of time thinking about it, traveling to visit other places, and Portland was the winner.
I didn't know this until we started talking about what drew you here, and I asked if I could ask that. But when you were doing that, and you're way too young to be thinking of, okay, this is where I want to be for a long haul, but that's essentially what you were doing.
Yeah.
But you weren't even in the field of aging at that time.
No.
So now that you've moved, you've been here how many years?
I've been here 6 years.
Okay, now that you've been here 6 years, are you still looking at this as a place you're going to be for a while?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Portland is a fantastic city to live in. Oregon is a fantastic state.
Is it a fantastic place to age in?
In fact, it is one of the best places in the country according to a lot of the work that's being done on age-friendly communities.
Okay.
I know that Portland is a leader internationally on this. AARP works closely with the folks at Portland State University, Institute on Aging there, along with the city, and there is a growing movement. We are doing things in Portland, just with physical space, making sure that if there's a walking path, there's benches every so often, so older people or people with disabilities can stop and take a break instead of being committed to a 5-mile trek.
That's right. Well, some of the new research that just came out this year on nature and the exposure to the elements of nature, the moments, minutes, or hours that you can spend over a week's time in nature have an effect on the aging process and the cognitive issues that are challenging. If you recommend that, but you don't have the structure of the benches, you don't have the landing places to have that intervention, it doesn't work. So what else do you see in Portland?
Well, a lot of that, the mass transit system, for example. Having good mass transit is key to being able to age in place and be able to access those things that you want to get to. Now we're going to be opening up the new Orange Line on the MAX shortly, and that's going to add new accessibility to thousands and thousands more people to be able to go, between Milwaukee and downtown easily. Making sure that there's connector routes, so it's not just a hub and spoke system, it's more of a getting around town kind of system. But also the zoning. Zoning, being able to walk to a grocery store and a bank and a hair salon near where you live, that is actually something that is really key. You know, downtown, there's so many downtowns in the United States that don't have a grocery store.
That empty out every night at 5, and then no grocery stores, so no reason to stop anywhere. And Portland's future, I think, is in the hands of a generation that predicts that they will live there, and that's where you come in. And when we started a few moments ago finding out about why you chose Portland, it sounds as though you're helping build the structure for you.
Yeah.
Not to say you're greedy and want to live in a, but you
It's
want
enlightened self-interest.
you want better practices to be put into play and in fact tested here. We've got the village model and the Bridge Meadows, all different things that our students are realizing are here. And if they went to other places around the country, this would be foreign information to them. It would sound utopian. It would sound like something that they could never get. Well, Portland is getting that.
Right.
But it doesn't sound like you're satisfied with where it is, but want to help create other things along the same path.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, in Oregon, Portland has learned a lot and still has some room to grow in terms of providing an age-friendly city. But, of course, Portland's not the only place of importance in the state. Springfield and Eugene are working on this, too. I know that the Institute on Aging at Portland State's really interested in how do we do more of a rural age-friendly community. And transportation is a huge piece of that. Access to good quality health care, access to good quality food, so there's no food deserts out there. These are all really important things that it's going to look different in Portland than it is in, you know, Wallowa County.
Right, right.
Yeah, but it's, you know, we purposely moved downtown so that my wife could walk to work. Again, age friendly. We looked at a place, our place is one level, so that down the road, if it makes it difficult for one of us to ambulate, we don't have stairs to go up and down. These are the kinds of things, the zoning, the design work, the you know, the mindful creation of spaces.
And the intentional use of the planning process to look ahead to this boomer, call it a wave for a moment, but a boomer wave. We know the numbers and can pretty much expect that as people are aware that lifestyles can help extend that longevity and have people successfully age, there's going to be more numbers of older people aging in place that need to have access to the structure that you're talking about building.
Right.
I want one more thing to add here, and this doesn't have to do with Portland, but there's a term that's come in, and some of the speakers in this round of filming are talking about ageism and words and the power of words to either lift or to crush people or to mislead people. And the term I want to throw out to you that I didn't warn you about but is the term silver tsunami.
Right.
Silver tsunami is something you and I have heard for a number of years.
Right.
I tried to trace that back for a quick project to figure out where did it come from. And there are some references, but no one is saying they came up with it. And I think I am now feeling the reason. And go to Ashton Applewhite, who's going to be with us. And she's the one who is really trying to focus a hot spotlight on words that didn't seem to make a difference.
Right.
Well, silver tsunami is something that is being attached to the sheer number of boomers who will be on shore of a certain age bracket, and when it gets there, it'll overwhelm whatever's in its path. Total destruction. That's what tsunamis
Devastation.
are. Is that something that you have worked around, that term?
We very strongly oppose the use of the term tsunami when it comes to aging. You know, yes, the boomers are turning 65, and you also have to recognize the boomers are different than previous generations too. They have different expectations. They have different attitudes about the world. But even so, tsunami implies something that's devastating. But I would just look at this and say, well, it's the silver rising tide. You know, it's like,
Okay.
because you have these people.
But it's predictable too. A tsunami comes after an earthquake that is not predicted.
Right.
And then once it happened, you just get out of the way, or maybe you don't have a chance to. This is not something that is going to surprise anyone, because you and I just said, we know the numbers. Rising tide is a good one. I'm going to propose a couple others for you.
Yeah.
Rising tide is good, but even a rising tide, it'll still overwhelm.
But it lifts all boats.
It does lift all
And
boats.
that's the goal that we're looking at here. It's like, don't think of aging as a negative, think of it as a positive.
Okay.
What is it that people over 65 can contribute? I mean, you're going to see people continuing to work because they want to,
Excellent.
volunteering, being involved in the community in so many different ways. That
Helping with their creative minds to overcome problems by being
Exactly.
on those intergenerational task forces that say, here's the problem, what's the solution? And I think that group of people who are in that silver something are going to be the solution advocates to find a solution that will help that millennial generation thrive when they get there, because the structure will be built for that group that will live for another 40 or 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
With that mindset, I'm going to go to one of the colleagues you and I know, Jeanette Liardi.
Mm-hmm.
She's a writer and someone who will also be interviewed, and I'll go in more depth. She wrote a recent piece for Bill Thomas's website in which she said, I want to change the word tsunami to reservoir. And I then, she and I talked about that, and I said, what you've got is the reservoir that has controls on it that can power turbines, that if we realize that this boomer generation has assets that are not going to be wasted unless we don't understand. It's not a tsunami that's out of control. It's now, so far, it's built up this reservoir of wealth, the reservoir of knowledge, the reservoir of problem solving, and maybe the most important, the reservoir of commitment to make a difference. And you're one of them. And if that reservoir could be understood with resources that you said people could volunteer, they could find a way to make a difference, those taps are going to make a difference in the rest of history. If we can see that not as destructive competition between the younger who are saying, look out for the tsunami, and the olders who are saying, what do we do? We've got the answer, we think, and that is, let's all work together to plan ahead.
Yeah. This is a generation that has made a huge difference at other points in our history, and they're just going to continue to do so, just in a different way.
I think that's it. Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.